This is Caffeinate Your Career, a series where I get to ask experts all the questions you want to know. I'm your host, Alicia Josie, and today I'm talking with Kelly Pfrommer. She's the CEO and founder of Cloud Giants, a company that she started out of her home. So let's hear what she has to say. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really glad we could get you on Caffeinate Your Career.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get started with the rapid icebreaker questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, the first one, hard one. Favorite backyard vendor?
It's really tough to choose. If I were going today, I would go to Bulgogi.
Okay, good answer. Aside from necessities, what is one thing you could not go a day without?
My first answer was sleep, but then I thought about the love of my children and my family.
And now I have a this or that for you. Do you prefer to be the passenger or the driver?
Driver.
Okay, and why?
The only other person that I could be a passenger for would be with my husband, and I prefer my driving.
That's a nice way to put it. Okay, so now I kind of want to shift gears and just get into your Frontier growth story, because I know you've been here way longer than me. So can you just talk about how you've progressed here at the Frontier?
Yeah, I cannot recall the year, but it's been a while. My team had grown. We were working out of my house around my dining room table, and I was about to go on a vacation. And I said, y'all, you can't come here while I'm on my vacation. My neighbors would be suspicious. They're already kind of struggling. So I said, good luck finding a place to work. And so one of my coworkers knew about the Frontier and started working here. I was gone for 2 weeks. I came back. Nobody wanted to come back to my house. So that's how the Frontier became our home initially. And as soon as I got to experience it, we got on the wait list to move upstairs. And we were fortunate enough to get the office that Luminous was once a part of. I think they had 2 people in the office, and they said they were going to add a third, and it was just too small for them. We moved in with 5 people, and I think we eventually had a top 6 in that space. We expanded to the office next door, and then ultimately we moved over to the 600 building. Oh, just kidding. We actually moved downstairs first before we moved over to the 600 building. We were next door in what's now the studio, which I think lore says that when it was IBM, it was a Subway. Did you know that?
Oh my gosh. So I was telling people, someone toured me and they brought me back there and they were like, this used to be a Subway. And I didn't see it fully. I just kind of like peeked and I was like, oh my gosh, how cool. I was thinking a Subway like transportation.
Oh.
And I went telling people and I was like, we have a Subway back there and it's underground. And then I think someone heard me telling the story and they were like, what are you talking about? Like, they mean the restaurant.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So we worked from the Subway and then moved over to the 600 building. That was a lot of fun to get to kind of pick out our carpet and colors, and that only lasted us about a year. And so then we moved downstairs in the 600 building, which we're in. And if the pandemic weren't around, we would need another space. So we're hopefully going to expand next summer to a little bit more space. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys have pretty much been all over.
We have, and it's been really fun to see the Frontier grow and change, but stay so much the same as it was when we first started, which is a nice community of people with all different interests and skills and sizes. I really love this place.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you're here.
Yeah, thanks.
So the company that you're talking about whenever you're talking about your growth through Frontier is Cloud Giants, right? So can you just kind of catch the viewers up a little bit and explain what your company is?
Yep. Cloud Giants is a Salesforce consulting company. So we help businesses of all sizes who have Salesforce as part of their strategic back office systems, which really helps them kind of run their business. We help them with implementations, strategy, roadmaps, building out additional functionality. So it's technology, but first we have to focus on the business processes. And if you are, if you need work with making those better, we help with that. And then we implement the technology that will support that. So it's a little bit of change management, a lot of talking to people, coming up with better ways of doing things, and then adding automation through the system to make their business really work smoothly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Really cool.
It's like puzzles all day long.
Yeah. So how did you get into that?
In college, during my summers, I was an intern at a chemical company. They started to implement some software. It wasn't Salesforce at the time. It was supply chain software. And they had consultants come in, and I had the opportunity to meet those consultants. And so at the end of my college career, I thought I would like to be a consultant. It seemed really fun, exciting. You got to travel a lot, work on hard problems. And so I shifted my energies to doing that, and that's how I started my career, was as a consultant. Later on, I became a business analyst, which is a lot like an internal consultant for a business. There's this movie called Office Space. Have you seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, homework for you. It's very funny, and there's this character who's being interviewed by some consultants and asked what their job is, and this person says, well, I'm a business analyst. And they're like, well, what does a business analyst do? And this person says, well, what I do is I take the requirements from the business and I give them to the technical people, which doesn't sound like a very, valuable exchange of information.
Mm-hmm.
But what that person didn't describe was the sort of translation that occurs and the asking great questions to the business person and then getting some kind of agreement as to how things should work, and then translate that to a technical person so that they could implement some kind of improvement so that the business person is happy. So it sounds like kind of like a glue position, but that's kind of the same thing as being a consultant as being a business analyst. So that's kind of how I got my start. And then I had children, and I really just wanted more freedom and flexibility. I wanted to work as a solo gig worker, just single consultant, but I was kind of afraid of selling. But as soon as somebody said yes, which was a company that still works with us today, I sort of was hooked, and I realized that selling wasn't as difficult as I had initially thought it to be, or as I had this misunderstanding about what selling really means. And it's really just taking something that you're passionate about, seeing if it's a good fit for someone, identifying how you can help them, and proposing a way in which to work together that they can say yes to or no to.
Mm-hmm.
That, to me, is just doing the work and not selling.
Yeah.
So once I was past that blocker, that's how Cloud Giants was really born, between leaving work and then knowing that I could do it.
Mm-hmm. And were you by yourself for a while?
Mm-hmm. For the first 9 months, I was by myself, and I realized that it was a lot of work to be by yourself. And the reward, sort of the opportunity to make more money, I had left a job that I was being well paid for, and now it's kind of like twice as much work and a lot less money.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really money motivated to add on and make it into a business, but it really was more about community and being able to, I want to enjoy what I do.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the same thing over and over again, it becomes a little bit boring. So I thought, well, if I add an intern, which is how I got my start, to the work that we're doing, I can teach somebody how to do the work. They could learn the things that I find not as exciting, and it's kind of a win-win situation.
Yeah.
So around the 9-month mark, I added an intern. Her name is Alex, and she's still with us today. She's employee 1, and I think it's 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, she's fantastic. It's been fun to see her career blossom and all the things she's been able to do. She's incredible.
That's awesome. So you guys specialize in Salesforce. So what are some different roles that people hold at your company?
So the roles at our company, there's the making the business run, and then there's the delivering our services. So the making our business run, it's the leadership team, sales, operations, finance, HR. And then the delivering our services, at the end of the day, everybody's a consultant. Just the kinds of work that they do differ. Some folks who have a lot of experience working with customers or this technology spend a lot of their time focused on strategy and solution design, which is really fun.
Sounds cool.
Then there are others who are there to do more of the day-to-day work to make a project run. So there's not necessarily a dedicated project manager, but somebody who serves in that role to ensure that things stay on track, to get the information that they need from the customer, to make sure that the customer's team is available for when we need them. And then we have folks that are primarily focused on tech work. So we've got technical consultants who build the really fun things that make everything work. With Salesforce terminology, there's kind of tried and true development work, coding. So we do have developers, but then there's this kind of in-between capability, which is called declarative programming. And that's without having to know a base language. And there's a lot of, a user interface that helps support building this logic. And it's kind of like click and point and run. And you have to understand how that stuff works. So it's not like just anybody can do it, but anybody can do it with practice and time and judgment. But it's pretty exciting when somebody says, I want these 5 things to happen when this first thing occurs. To be able to do that and to do that without a developer is incredibly powerful and a lot of fun.
That's really cool. So you talked about being a business analyst a little bit earlier, and I kind of want to touch on that a little bit more. When I was writing these questions for you, I was thinking about words that I heard circulating throughout circles that I was in college and then in high school. And I can remember people saying I want to be like a businesswoman or like a businessman, but we didn't know what that job was. Mm-hmm. And I feel like business analyst is obviously one role that someone could hold. They just didn't know the title at that time. So who would you say that someone in that position works most closely with in different companies?
I think it depends on the size of the organization and the organization's definition of that role. Mm-hmm. It's one of those roles that I think has lost its meaning over time. When I was in the role, I worked with people of all different levels, from the executive team to the individual contributor. And anybody who has to interact with the system is somebody that a business analyst would need to interact with, because they're all users of the system. Even if it's an executive who may never log in, they still are a user of the system because there's information that they need that comes from that system. And so they have to be included because you want to be able to capture the information in a way that makes it easy to present to that executive and understand what's important. And I think another thing that's important when you're talking to executives for the purposes of enhancing a system is tying them back to the major goals of an organization. Then you'll talk to the people who do the work every single day and who are in the system every single day. You'll talk to your customers who might benefit from the system even though they're not a direct user. And then finally, the developers and the individuals who are building the system. So it's an incredibly important role that I think can get overlooked because it's not as quantifiable as some other things. I think there's a lot of value in our work world for, I've produced X, I've delivered Y.
Right.
So these very tangible things, but the work of a business analyst is much more qualitative in nature, and that's much harder to measure. And it's a much more thinking position than it is a doing position. Yeah. I find it fun.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
So now I kind of want to shift gears into stepping into your shoes. So what is a typical day like for you?
When I thought about this, I felt a little shame at first because I don't have a typical day.
Yeah.
They're all different. And I think the next question about the sort of 3 things I spend most of my time on are better representative of a typical day. But I think it's really easy with technology to be on all the time. So lately, and in a weird way, thanks to COVID, I have not been paying attention to my phone.
Nice.
I've not been looking at my email as much. And instead, I have more, dedicated spots in my day to do that. So rather than just like waiting for an email to come in, which is a very bad habit, for me it was, and now I have dedicated time, so I'm much more efficient with it. So I feel like I've got all this extra space.
Right.
There are meetings that I attend, and it's instead of a typical day, the week itself is we're very focused on setting a plan and then achieving it.
Mm-hmm.
And we break down our year into quarters, just like every other business does. But we have specific things that we want to achieve. And so we follow this process called the Entrepreneurial operating system. It's written by a man named Gino Wickman. And he created it, but it's a book called Traction. And we follow that to the T. So I'll start my week looking at where do we want to be at the end of the quarter, and what are the things that I need to do this week to get us closer to that. And I might identify 1 or 2 really important things to do for the week. And then the rest is a little bit at the, sort of the whim of the business, because my job is, as a CEO, to help people be as successful as possible.
Yeah.
And so to do that, I talk to folks and ask them questions. And then if they bring issues, then I help resolve those issues. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, following the process itself to check in to know, are we on track? Where are we with the plan?
And what would you say are some typical issues that you're having to troubleshoot?
I think issues can be sort of a negative term. And with this process, the entrepreneurial operating system, an issue could even be an opportunity. It can be an idea. And every day, every week, every month, every year, it's a little bit different. We have a different set of clients. We have a different set of team members. There's different things going on in the world that impact how we work. And to be successful, to have a healthy business, you can't pretend that everything's perfect.
Right.
And so it can range from, somebody needs better equipment because of the new kind of work from home dynamic, to talking about our future office space needs. It's really the gambit of things. We take this process of issue discussion and identification very seriously. We'll talk about, is it something that we have to solve now? Is it something that we have to solve later? If it's something that's very big and takes a lot of effort and is not urgent and important, we kind of put it in the back burner. And then otherwise we start to focus on things that we can make an immediate change to. So it's all the things that one needs to do to grow and care for a business. It's everything.
Yeah, everything.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So what would you say excites you the most about the work that you do?
I do love solving problems. That's our purpose at Cloud Giants. Let's see if I can get it right. It's on our walls. If you all come by, you should see it's written on. You can see it from the doorway.
Okay.
Owning our own destiny to solve the most complex problems together. And there's nothing better than facing a challenge with a group of people and then solving it and cheering. Mm-hmm. So that is wonderful. And the people that I get to work with every day, the individuals that are my coworkers and our clients, we are so fortunate to have some really amazing, fun, hardworking, caring people to spend our time with.
Yeah. Yeah, I love whenever I finish a project or something and that there was a challenge and then we all brainstorm, how can we fix this? And then after we do it, it just feels so good. And then you almost bond because of the challenge too. So that's always nice.
Yeah, it's energizing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of conversation today about burnout.
Yeah.
And I think that some folks feel like hard work, is a contributing factor to burnout. But I think it's the inability to check out and experience those wins.
Mm-hmm.
If you can never solve the problem, then your hard work doesn't lead to any kind of reward.
Right. It doesn't feel like there's like a finish line for
Right.
that thing. There's like no closure with that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the work can be hard and challenging, but when you get to that finish line, that's
rewarding.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's reinvigorating. It kind of restores those energy
Yeah.
things, energy buckets. COVID brain.
So, what skills would you say that people need to be successful in a role like yours?
So, as a Salesforce consultant, or do you think as a CEO?
As a CEO.
The skills needed, and really, I think it's your nature, and you can develop these things. But humility, patience, and I was struggling with, is it grit? Is it resilience? Is it persistence? It's something between those three. But when something knocks you down, the ability to get back up again,
Mm-hmm.
because you will get knocked down.
Yeah. And do you think that there's like a personality or personality traits that work best in these type of roles?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there are some people that are very energetic and very confident, very extroverted people that do really well. And then there are people who are introverted and not very energetic who do really well.
Right.
And that's, I think, where consistency comes into play, and not letting those setbacks deter you from continuing forward. So maybe another important trait would be passion for what it is that you're doing and building or working toward.
How important are college degrees and certificates?
So in the Salesforce world, certificates are pretty important. To start working as a Salesforce consultant or a Salesforce administrator, you don't need any of those things, certificate or college degree, to make it happen. But if you're, not willing to do the work and learn, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
There are people that have worked at Cloud Giants that don't have college degrees and who have obtained the certifications and done the hard work and done really, really well. And then there are individuals who have gotten that college degree and have all the certifications and have done really poorly.
Mm.
So I don't think that those things are needed to be successful.
Yeah.
I do think that they help when you don't have the experience, as a way to sort of demonstrate that you've gotten some knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But neither of those things are going to lead to success if you're not willing to do the work.
Right. And so whenever you graduated with your MBA, did you feel prepared for like a mid to associate or associate to mid-level role upon graduation, or did you like work jobs at the same time? How did that work out for you?
Yes, I attended NC State's Jenkins MBA program as a part-time student while I was working, after being in my career for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to call that the overtime program.
Yeah.
It's not part-time, it's really a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I was already at a midpoint in my career.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was awesome for teaching me new things and experiencing some things that I wasn't at work that are new and upcoming. With respect to, does it prepare you to be at a mid-level in your profession? I definitely think that it helps with adding credibility.
Yeah.
Your network also helps you, that you obtain while you're in school, helps you navigate additional career opportunities. Now, if the question is, does it prepare you for business ownership? No.
Yeah.
No, that's some of those things were not covered, at least in the program that I was in and the specific elective course track that I was on. Like in particular, I know I attended an accounting class, but I really either didn't pay enough attention
Yeah.
or, it wasn't exactly the kind of accounting for starting a small business.
So what would you say would prepare people for owning their own business? Like, would you just say it's mainly like reading books or taking some sort of program?
In the Salesforce community, there is this joke about becoming an accidental Salesforce administrator. And I believe that I became an accidental Salesforce business owner.
Got it.
If I knew then what I know now, I would never have started my business.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So I think that some degree of naivete and some external motivator to get it started and an incredible support system are what you need.
Yeah.
But sometimes too much information might be a challenge.
Yeah. That might just stop you right there. If you get too much information, you just don't make any moves at all.
Mm-hmm.
So jumping back to talking about your MBA. So people who are getting their MBA right now, let's say they went to, got their bachelor's degree and then directly after went into their MBA program. What advice would you have for them?
I would say try not to do that. I think that an MBA program is really valuable if you do have some career experience.
Mm-hmm.
The kinds of case studies that you'll go through and including some of that work-life experience will enhance that education.
Right.
So if possible, to wait would be good. Other advice, I can see the advantage of not having started your career, but maybe if you can spread it out so that you get some time in a seat throughout your education. So some kind of co-op opportunity or internship, and don't necessarily plow through. That way you can apply your learnings pretty quickly.
Right.
That is a benefit of going part-time, is that I could turn around the next day after a class and experiment and try or ask a question.
Yeah, that's great advice. Do you have any advice for people who are looking to get into Salesforce?
Well, I do have a website. It's called Trailhead, I think, .salesforce.com. Salesforce has provided anybody who's interested all the training they could ever want, and it's for free. So if someone wants to expand their knowledge, that's the place they go. If they want to pivot their career from something else into the Salesforce community, that's the great place to go. And how can you beat free training?
Yeah.
So if you're not somebody that can learn in a sort of self-directed way, that might not be the best path for you. But if you are, they give you all the tools that you need, including the opportunity to interact with the system and take some of the lessons that they're providing you and experiment with it right then and there. So you get that feedback if you've gotten it right or not. And there's just not enough people out there that know Salesforce.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great, career that people can go into that I think a lot of, universities and colleges don't have a specific educational program around. They have programs around Ruby, on Rails, and all the development tools out there, but Salesforce is a missed opportunity for college kids. Yeah. They could learn a ton and walk out with a very well-paying job.
Mm-hmm. And then are there any websites that you suggest where they should look for jobs other than the traditional websites like Indeed and LinkedIn and things like that?
Locally, GrepBeat has a great list of local employers. all the universities have wonderful places to look.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a few questions for things that you can leave our audience with.
Okay.
So the first is something for them to read or watch.
If you haven't already watched it, Ted Lasso.
Okay. I've heard so many things. I need to watch
You
it.
haven't watched it?
No. I thought it was a cowboy show.
Oh, because Lasso?
Yeah.
No. It is so enjoyable
Okay.
and incredible leadership demonstration. At least season 1. I haven't seen season 2 yet, but
Okay.
I love Ted Lasso. He is my leadership icon. I just love him. He's so great.
Okay. And then a topic for people to research deeper.
Okay, I'm going to sound nerdy when I say this, but I don't mean it this way. But neuroplasticity and how your mind, you can rewire your brain. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, I'm kind of negative, I see the negative, you can rewire for positivity.
Yeah.
Your brain is a pretty fascinating thing. So I think that's a really interesting thing to learn about. It's one that I'm very excited to learn about and spend a lot of time looking for articles and things to know more.
I feel like you could go into a deep, deep dive with that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
really cool. And then the last thing is just a final piece of advice for people as they go throughout their career journey.
So I think a lot of people have a destination in mind. Sometimes they don't. You're asked that question, what do you want to be in 5 years? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? Some people have a great idea about that, and it might change. Instead of just focusing on the definition, I think imagining what the journey is like and what your experience is like as you work toward that is just as important, if not more important, because you can find yourself in a place, in an environment with people, activities, and tasks that do not bring you joy and sort of drain you.
Mm-hmm.
So imagining those day-to-day moments and the opportunities to high-five your coworkers, or do you like to work alone? Do you like to work in a physical office space? I think now more than ever, I'm imagining that environment and what those tasks and activities and even what you feel, how you feel is really important.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks
and
for having
giving
me.
so much great advice.
Thank you. None of it is mine. It's all that I've learned from others along the way.
Compiled from books and things, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And to see more Caffeinate Your Career episodes, click the link on screen.